Welcome students of semester 4 Botany Honors. I hope all of you are well and safe in your home. In last classes we have covered the part of Mendel laws and then we completed the back cross test cross. Today I will go through some extension part of Mendelian genetics, that is incomplete dominance and codominance. So now proceed to incomplete dominance and codominance.
So here I have prepared few colorful slides for you. Here I used a different combination of color for few of the words for your better understanding. So from that particular topics we have to know at first the definition and concept of both incomplete dominance and codominance. Number 2, their example. Or number 3, the F1 hybrid selfing and those cross outcome we have to study. And from those cross outcome we have to determine the phenotypic and genotypic ratio of both incomplete dominance and codominance.
Before we going to directly the topics of incomplete dominance and codominance, first of all, you have to know what is dominant and what is recessive. Because if you minutely see here that both the term incomplete dominance and codominance actually carries the word dominance at last. So, to understand well these topics, I have produced a cross diagram here. A snapdragon or Antirrhinum majus flower of red color crosses with another snapdragon flower of white color. And then you see here that F1 hybrid from those parent, it produced a red color flower of snapdragon. So the question is, why this red color arise? Why not white? Here you see in the combination of allele, that is capital R and small r in the hybrid. Out of this allele, one, that is capital R, going to mask the effect of other. That's why it actually arises as red. So the capital R actually going to mask the effect of smaller. That's why small r not going to be expressed. Capital R going to be expressed. That's why red.
No problem, I will clear it again. Here you see in the combination of allele in the F1 hybrid, that is capital R and small r. Out of these allele, capital R going to suppressed or masked the effect of smaller. That's why smaller going to be masked, and that's why white color flower will not going to be expressed. This is the concept of dominant and recessive. আশা করি জায়গাটা তোমাদের কাছে বোঝা গেছে। কি বললাম আমি এখানে, যে এখানে ক্যাপিটাল আর এবং স্মল আর এর অ্যালিলির মধ্যে ক্যাপিটাল আর যখন স্মল আর এর এফেক্টকে সাপ্রেসড বা মাস্ক করে দিচ্ছে, তখন তাদের ক্যাপিটাল আর এর যে ফেনোটাইপটা সেটা সম্পূর্ণরূপে অ্যারাইজ করছে, কিন্তু স্মল আর এর কোনো রকম এফেক্ট আমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছি না। তাই এখানে F1 হাইব্রিড স্ন্যাপড্রাগন ফ্লাওয়ারের কালারটা রেড হয়েছে, সাদা হতে পারেনি।
হোপ তোমাদের জায়গাটা পরিষ্কার হয়েছে। আবার এখানে দেখো F1 হাইব্রিড কিন্তু একটু অন্যরকম F1 হাইব্রিড। কীরকম না, এখানে একটা পিঙ্ক কালার F1 হাইব্রিড তৈরি হয়েছে from the same parent of red flower and white flower. So why this pink flower arise instead of red flower? We have discussed in the dominant section. Because this capital R allele actually here not play as a dominant role here. Even smaller also not playing as dominant or recessive role. That's why a intermediate color produced in the F1 hybrid, which is an incomplete dominant flower of snapdragon. This is a case of incomplete dominant. So I hope you can differentiate the dominant and the incomplete dominant. That's why I have placed it in a same slide. Here this intermediate F1 hybrid not going to be similar with any of its variant. That's why it is incomplete dominant. But when you see in the case of red flower dominant F1 hybrid, that's cases actually it going to be similar with its one of its parent. That's why this is actual dominant, and when it's not going to be similar with any of the parent, that's why it is an incomplete dominant. I hope it is clear to everyone now. Here I have produced a separate slide for incomplete dominant for you. So let's start. Come here first. Here you can see incomplete dominance in a separate slide. Here a red flower of Antirrhinum crosses with a white flower of Antirrhinum majus, and finally it produced the two different gametes, that is capital R gametes from the red flower and small r gametes from the white flower, and combined in F1 generation finally it produced a pink flower, which is a intermediate color and not going to be similar with white or red flower. Fine. So I hope from this slide and from the previous slide we are now very clear about incomplete dominance and actual dominance, and where actually the difference between the dominance and incomplete dominance. So now we have to proceed to codominance, which is another subtopics for that part of extension part of Mendelian genetics. So proceed to here. Here you see a red color flower of a rhododendron and white flower of rhododendron ultimately produced a red capital R gamete from the red ones and smaller gametes from the white one, and it finally in F1 combined to form a red flower with white spot. This is different thing from the previous one. Why different? In previous cases we see that the phenotype is completely intermediate and completely different from the parental ones, but here you see that combination of both the parents presents in F1 hybrid. I hope that all of you can now differentiate the codominance from the intermediate incomplete dominance, because in codominance there are combination of both the parent phenotypes present in F1 hybrid, but in incomplete dominance there are new intermediate phenotype arise, which one will not going to be similar with any one of the parent in case of incomplete dominance, but in codominance it going to be similar with both the parent. Here you can see clearly that red and white both colors are present in F1 hybrid. সুতরাং আমি আশা করতে পারি তোমাদের সবার কাছে এটা ক্লিয়ার হয়েছে যে ইনকমপ্লিট ডমিনেন্স এবং কোডমিনেন্সের বেসিক যে ডিফারেন্স সেটা ঠিক কোন জায়গায়। একটা হলো কি যে ইনকমপ্লিট ডমিনেন্সের ক্ষেত্রে F1 হাইব্রিড যেটা তৈরি হবে সেটা কিন্তু কোনোভাবেই কোনো প্যারেন্টের সঙ্গে সিমিলারিটি থাকবে না, তার পরিবর্তে কি হবে এখানে একটি অন্তর্বর্তী বৈশিষ্ট্যযুক্ত F1 হাইব্রিড তৈরি হবে। আবার যদি আমরা উল্টো দিকে কোডমিনেন্সের ক্ষেত্রে দেখি তখন আমরা কি দেখব, এসো দেখা যাক। তখন যে F1 হাইব্রিডটি তৈরি হবে সেটাতে কিন্তু দুটো প্যারেন্টেরই বৈশিষ্ট্য বর্তমান থাকবে সেই ফেনোটাইপের ক্ষেত্রে। আশা করি জায়গাটা এবার সম্পূর্ণ পরিষ্কার হয়েছে তোমাদের কাছে। Here I should clear one more thing, that I have write down the word like codominance, red flower with white spot, or previously incomplete dominance use different combinations of color because of the reason that the codominance as it F1 hybrid contains both red and white color, that's why I used those red and white letters also and in that particular word, right? And also in case of incomplete dominance only in pink color. I think it would be more helpful for your better understanding about these topics. Here you see the next slide. Here I have write down the definition of both incomplete dominance and codominance and their proper example. Here you can see in the definition of incomplete dominance, this condition is recognized by the heterozygotes expressing an intermediate phenotype relative to the parental phenotypes. This thing I have already discussed more than one times, so I hope it is clear to you that the intermediate phenotype means a completely new phenotype which is quite different from the
both parent. Okay. For example, Antirrhinum majus, that is snapdragon flower, is a very good example of incomplete dominance. Why? Because a pink color Antirrhinum majus is a product of white and red parent of snapdragon. Okay. Similarly, in codominance, you can see here is an important line. The phenotypic effect of each allele is observable in the heterozygous condition. So here actually a complete lacking of dominant and recessive relationship. Why? Because both the alleles are phenotypically expressed in same degree in the heterozygotes. Okay, so that's why it is codominant. A very good example of codominance is AB blood group of human. Why AB blood group? Because that particular blood group possesses both antigen A and antigen B. That's why AB blood group is a good example of codominance. And I have written another one, that is camellia flower of red color with white spot, and which one actually is a hybrid product of red and white parent. That's why it is an example of codominance. So now the definition and example of both incomplete dominance and codominance is very clear to you now. Now proceed to the next important slides here. Now come to the one of the most important part of the video, that is selfing and cross outcome. So first of all you have to clear what is selfing. Actually, when the F1 hybrid of similar types are cross with each other, you can see here, suppose a pink color of incomplete dominant flower of snapdragon crosses with another one of incomplete dominant F1 hybrid of snapdragon. So this is an example of selfing. So here you can see the from both the F1 hybrid there are two gametes arise, capital R and small r, and crosses with themselves, and resulting the progeny will be one of red color, two of pink color, and one of white color. So their phenotypic ratio will be 1 of red, 2 of pink, and 1 of white. 1:2:1. And if you see the genotypic ratio, there are also 1:2:1, because 1 capital R, 2 capital R smaller, and 1 smaller. So this kind of result actually arise in the F2 generation when we crosses the F1 hybrid. Now if you compare this kind of phenotypic ratio with Mendelian monohybrid ratio, then you can see that there, if you can remember the phenotypic ratio where 3:1. Why 3:1? Because 3 of red dominant and 1 of white recessive. That's why phenotypic ratio were 3:1. But in this case, here you see the phenotypic ratio is 1:2:1. But if you compare the genotypic ratio in case of incomplete dominance codominance and with Mendelian monohybrid cross ratio, both the cases that will be 1:2:1. So the phenotypic ratio will be differed, but genotypic ratio will be same. Okay. Now I hope it is clear to you. Here one last thing I should tell, that is the both incomplete dominant and codominant, the selfing and cross outcome and their genotypic ratio will be same. Only the difference is the phenotypic expression of the hybrid, because in case of incomplete dominant hybrid it will be pink color, and in case of codominant hybrid it will be red color flower with white spot. Thank you everyone for being here with me. Thanks to you all.